Hey everyone, Matthew Labosco here with your Vitality Principle tip of the week. And I have a special one for you this week. It's actually a clip from one of the courses, our Arena Method course is called Align. And this is a clip from a session where we talk about stress and specifically the stress paradox. And so this clip really answers the question, is the stress response friend or foe? Enjoy, and I'll see you next week.
The stress paradox. But before I get into the stress paradox, we need to define what stress is. Okay, this is obviously not necessarily an easy thing to define because stress can be, you know, can manifest and show up in many different areas of life. But this definition that was given by a professor at Stanford, I thought was an excellent definition. Her name is Aaliyah Braun, I believe her name is. And she gave a definition of stress that I thought was pretty spot on. And this is the kind of stress we're going to be talking about, just for the record, for class here, which is the experience or anticipation of threat or adversity in one's goal-related efforts. Okay, now, if you think about that definition, and I think that's pretty accurate, there's a paradox here, right? The paradox of threat and adversity, but then there's this idea of, well, but it's all in relative to our goal-related efforts, the things that are important to us. So it kind of begs the question, what is required? What is required to be stressed? There's one thing that you have to have in order to be stressed. Any guesses? You have to care. Caring is what's required to be stressed. Think about it. If I said to you, Freddie is failing school, would you be stressed? Well, I guess it would depend if Freddie is you, or if Freddie is one of your children, or if Freddie's somebody you care about, or you just care about children, period, failing, then you might be stressed. That might be stress you out. Like, oh God, Freddie's failing. It's terrible. But you're like, Freddie, I don't care. Whatever. That doesn't stress me out. Right? Another one is, hey, can you believe it? The Yankees lost. They lost last night. Or your football team, the New York Giants football team, they lost their game this past weekend. I don't care. It doesn't stress me out. Well, but if they don't win the next game, they don't make the playoffs. Aren't you a little worried about that? Nope, not even a little bit, because I don't really care about football. So the requirement to be stressed is caring, which is kind of tricky, right? Because if I want to eliminate stress, I actually have to stop caring. I don't think anybody is interested in that strategy, although you can start to identify people that have gotten to that point because they haven't learned this paradox of stress and how to actually manage it in a way that's healthy and moves us and keeps us motivated and moves us forward. Okay. They kind of give up. It's like, man, I don't care anymore. I just don't care. There's no point in caring. Right. It's like the one strategy people can get to eliminate stress is just, I don't care anymore. Right. Because that is the one thing you need to be stressed out. So there's this kind of weird, dichotomy there, paradox with stress. And so we're going to kind of break this down into, we'll call it the aspects of stress that I would say are more mainstream, that are more detrimental, our red side. And I'm going to talk about some things over here that aren't out in the mainstream as much, is kind of the other side of stress. Okay. And so we'll go through some of the ones that you guys probably know. They're out there. I mean, there's a war against stress for sure out there because of its impacts in a couple different ways, right? It's been, and all these things are true, by the way. Everything on here has been proven time and time again. Okay, so I'm not saying any of these things are myths, they're all true. Stress is absolutely shown to decrease performance by burning out, keeping unmotivated. You know, sustained levels of stress can really decrease performance over time. No question about it. It absolutely can correlate to sickness and disease. You know, high levels of stress and, you know, sustained amounts of stress, you know, tons of research, tons of science on sickness and disease. And stress also has a negative impact on your well-being, right? Like you're, you know, cranky, fatigued, irritated, right? You're just not enjoying life when you're stressed out and constantly in this state of stress. So there's no debate that there's the side of stress that is very detrimental to our performance, our health, and our well-being. No question about it. But there's another side to the stress, right? There's another side. Stress has also been proven to increase performance. Like, wait, what? When you're stressed out, your focus and your concentration are shown to be sharper. Your mental processing is exponentially higher. Absolutely, you're able to work through things at a much higher rate. Your rate of processing increases. Your mental acuity increases. You know, and that can even look like time slows down. Like you're able to slow time down. And you've heard about some of these experiences that people talk about where, you know, they're in their car is spinning out and they're slow motion watching things happen to assess what needs to be done. You know, a great example or book where this is illustrated is in the book written by Malcolm Gladwell, Blink. These things that happen in an instant and how the mind is able to slow things down and calculate things at such a high rate in moments of stress, stressful events, right? So it improves performance. Now, this one may shock a lot of you because it did to me when I learned this, is stress actually improves immunity. It's like, whoa, Matt, wait a minute. No. You got that one wrong. I think that's a typo. Well, hear me out. When you're in the stress state, pursuing, going, it is in that state where your actually immune system is up leveled. And if you think about it, when you're in pursuit, you got something going, you're going. It's very rare that you get sick when you're going for it. It's when you're done. It's when it's over. It's when the stress response goes away that the system is more susceptible because you tapped out of that response. You depleted your energy and there's nothing left over. So, but during the process of pursuit, of adrenaline being up, right, you're actually more resilient and you're able to recover. You can function on less sleep. You can function without eating. Like there are so many things that we're able to tolerate when we're in that high state. So in the pursuit of it, when we're in that state, we actually have a higher resiliency, improved immunity. Now, the after effects different. And that, again, you know, you can kind of see where you can go too far over here, right? And then the third thing is it is shown to improve well-being. It's like, oh man, this is crazy, right? That's why it's a paradox. But it, you know, improves mental toughness, resiliency, and also they've shown that it improves people's appreciation and gratitude for life, just life itself, because of what they have moved through, what they have pursued. So big paradox here with stress. It's like, well, what's the determining factor as to where we land, right? I would imagine that that's the question. So let's get there. What determines the outcome of stress? Like what moves us in either direction? And this is the latest research on stress, that there's one significant contributor to what determines where you go. And it's actually your mindset. It's how you relate to stress. It's your framework, your lens, your perspective, which is just what your mindset is. It's how you orient to stress. It's the framework and the beliefs you have about stress. Okay. And there is one strategy that is really the most detrimental, and is probably out there in the literature and out there in the world right now. And I would say most people currently engaging in stress management are executing with this strategy. Okay. And this definitely does not put you on the green side, so to speak. And that strategy is orienting to stress by trying to avoid it, by trying to manage it, or cope with it. Okay, so if you have a goal, which I know a lot of people orient to stress, or literally their life is trying to avoid stressful things, or when stress comes up, managing it in different ways. Well, I work out, I eat well, I make sure I meditate all the time to help limit the amounts of stress so that I avoid it. I've got different techniques I use to cope with stress. Like, this is the industry right now. I would say the predominant perspective on managing stress is to try to avoid it, manage it by doing all these other things, and cope with it by using different strategies. This is the strategy that definitely, or the mindset, the perspective, the framework that doesn't give us the ability to leverage some of the benefits that I just articulated in the previous page there. So what's the strategy we want to integrate? A lot of it is some of the things we've shared with you, but I'm going to get into more detail here. So the first thing, the way you want to think about stress is you want to actually think about it as an asset. You want to lean in and start to use it. Okay, so become friends with it. Think of it as an ally. Okay, so over here, stress is your ally. And over here, stress is your enemy. We want to align with it. And so I'm going to walk you through some steps here to help you align with stress. Look at it as your ally, not your enemy. So when we start to position ourselves with these stressful events or obstacles in our life as an ally, and we start to position ourselves to leverage the benefits of the stress response, one of the first things you want to do is you just want to acknowledge the stress. Name it, right? I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. Like, just name the emotion you're feeling, name the experience you're having. They have literally shown that if you do nothing more than just identify and acknowledge what's occurring, hey, I'm overwhelmed right now, they have seen the experience in the brain move from we'll call it kind of the more old brain kind of fight or flight response, and it starts to activate more of the frontal cortex. And so it's just by naming it, it starts to decrease the stress response. Just by acknowledging it, it puts us more into the frontal cortex axis, which is a step towards starting to leverage and direct and focus it. And that's step 2. Once you acknowledge the stress, then you want to welcome it and embrace it. And so what does that mean? Acknowledge the utility value, the resource that you just gained access to. Like, acknowledge it. It's like, oh, my body is literally, preparing me to do what I need to do to overcome whatever is happening, to overcome the obstacle. Like, the troops are being mobilized. Like, my body is on my side right now. Like, I'm gonna acknowledge and take that in. It's like, wow, there is this surge of energy, surge of resources that I've just got access to. So acknowledge the value of what's happening. That your biology is now just joined by your side. Like it's your ally now. And so once you acknowledge what's happening, and then you acknowledge, hey, there is this resource that is coming to my aid to help me to move forward, to take action, right? And then you want to use it, right? And you use it by focusing it on taking action. Okay, that's the one thing. Like, okay, what's the one thing I can do to take this energy and I want to focus it in a direction that in taking action in some way. So use it as a motivation to take action to move forward. Now, the other super interesting thing about the stress response that is really important to name here and also take advantage of. One of the hormones, it's a neurohormone that's released with adrenaline during the stress response, is a neurohormone called oxytocin. And oxytocin is basically a hormone that basically triggers connection. It's a social hormone. It's a hormone that makes us want to connect and reach out to other people. Basically, the stress response has built into it this instinct or this drive to reach out for support, to connect with people, to support others. And this has been shown, I mean, in many studies that I've seen, to be one of the most beneficial things a person can do when they're in a stress state is seek support, ask for help. Okay, there is literally a chemical hormone that's activated when we're stressed out called oxytocin that is basically saying or nudging us, hey, take action and start to ask people for help. Okay, when we start to orient to the stress response as an ally, what happens is this mindset starts to fuel this type of biology, right? Of taking the physiology, right? The biology, and high heart rate, increased blood pressure, breathing, sweating, all of this stuff. When we're oriented over here, it feeds on itself, number one, and this can turn into courage. And in some cases, it can be joy. Like it could be like, hey, let's do this. Let's overcome this thing. Let's make this happen. Let's get together with a team and let's tackle this thing, right? All of a sudden, this mindset and this biology starts to manifest as courage and joy. Over here, this mindset, which feeds the biology on this side, same biology, by the way, heart rate increases, blah, blah, blah. But what that does is it increases anxiety, overwhelm, completely different experience. And all of the ramifications from the previous page of, heart disease, heart problems, they have literally shown that when over here, there's been direct correlation to constriction of the vessels, your heart vessels, which obviously, closing the area where your blood goes through your arteries is not a good thing, leads to heart attacks. When you're inside of this mindset, the oxytocin actually plays a role, especially in this mindset, to keep. You can have increased heart rate, you can have increased blood pressure, you can have all those things happening, but your arterial walls, they don't constrict, they stay open. Okay, just through this mindset. So important to start to change our mindset when it comes to this idea of stress. It's not our enemy, it's our ally.